Uchena means with great difficulty. When the child comes out of the abdomen through the narrow passage due to the pressure there the breathing system completely stops. Due to agony, the child loses his memory. Sometimes the trouble is so severe that the child comes out dead or almost dead. One can imagine what the pangs of death are like, birth are like. The child remains for 10 months in that horrible condition within the abdomen. At the end of 10 months, he is forcibly pushed out. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord points out that a person who is serious about advancement in spiritual consciousness should always consider the 4 pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. The materialist advances in many ways, but is unable to stop these 4 principles of suffering inherent in the material existence. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. As the child is extolling the Supreme Lord in the womb, the last verse was, therefore, without being agitated anymore, I shall deliver myself from the darkness of nations with the help of my friend clear consciousness. Simply by keeping the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu in my mind, I shall be saved from entering into the wombs of many mothers for repeated birth and death. So when he just finished his prayers, then the air inside the womb pushes out the baby, and the baby suffers great pain, agony, breathlessness, and he becomes deprived of memory. So he had one kind of life in the womb of the mother, and immediately he has got another kind of life as soon as he comes out, because all those things are forgotten due to the trauma of being born. As long as these desires of the living entity still remain to be fulfilled, that is the force of karma, the force of material desires. So desiring is a very powerful power given to the living entity, and even though the child prays here, that means he desires, I shall be saved from entering into the wombs of many mothers for repeated birth and death. But then he has also made so many earlier desires which has to be undone. Every action has a reaction. In the material world, you desire something, then you have to undo those desires. So that is why in the course of practicing devotional service, these various desires due to our past karma, they keep surfacing up into our consciousness by the arrangement of the super soul. So that the living entity is tested whether he wants to give up or he wants to still fulfill those desires. So that is the purpose of, there is a great purpose why devotees also, even after coming to Krishna consciousness, take very, very disturbing thoughts, lusty thoughts, which it should not come for the devotee normally. So one should understand that those are all accumulated past bija, karma bija in our subtle body, and one way of eliminating that is by making it surface up into our consciousness so that we can exercise our free will to reject it. So this is one of the processes of self-purification, is how to exercise our free will to please Krishna and not for our own senses. For that opportunity is given by the external world Maya, and also within our mind-body system there are so many of these pent-up desires. So the question may be asked, the living entity is praying that he be liberated, but why still he is being born? Why he is still put into Maya? Because he has to fulfill, he has to finish his karma. He has to finish. Karma means whatever you have desired, you have to finish. So desiring is something which is very powerful. So misuse of that will simply give us material life. The Paramatma is seated in our heart. Today if I desire something very strongly, and if I don't have enough karma to get the benefit of that, Then the super soul guides the living entity to accumulate that karma, earn that money, and then get. Just like if somebody desires that I want to have a lot of money, then a subsequent desire will be maybe he should get educated, get a good job, or whatever it is. Because he wants money, then he has to do these things. Or let us say he wants to become big scholar. So that's the goal in mind. And the Paramatma sees that goal and says, then you will have to do, you have to go to college and you have to study. So you get direction for that, and then you work for it, and then you get. So in the same way, so many desires are there in our hearts. Those desires have all been carelessly put in our heart. And the super soul is so sensitive that it is accumulated, it is remembered, and if you still want to fulfill it, those desires are the circumstances are created by the Lord, including the living entity who wants to enjoy that, works for it as per the laws of karma, and put the tapasya, and he gets it. So that is the way in which the entire material world is running. That is the way in which all the living entities who are engaged in fruitive activities are getting the fruits of their activities. Completely in forgetfulness of the Lord. So they have whatever in the womb of the mother, whatever he prays, it's all forgotten. This way the life goes on, and then at the time of death, having achieved nothing, he wastes his life. Therefore, Prabhupada says, without realization of the evil of birth, death, old age and disease, our life is a waste. Simply we are just in a transit journey in this body. During transit, we are supposed to ensure that we reach a good destination. It's a transit vehicle. This body is a transit vehicle where we can guide the vehicle to a desired destination. Just like car, you can drive to any destination. Similarly, with your free will, you can drive this vehicle to any destination. You can drive this vehicle to a destination of sattvic life. You can drive this destination to hearing, chanting about the Lord, and filling our consciousness with Krishna consciousness. If you drive our vehicle to that destination, then naturally the vehicle will take us to that destination. If you remember the Lord at the time of death, if in a pure way, then we will not get any more birth and death. On the other hand, if you want to drive this vehicle to a destination, we have so many desires. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, different things. I want to possess this, I want different things. I want this relationship, this kind of quality of life, that quality of life, material life. If all those desires are there, then especially those who are chanting Hare Krishna 16 rounds have to be very, very careful, because all those desires will come true. Not like other living entities. It will come true. So, suppose if those desires are going to come true, will you do it? Will you ask for it? That should be the question we should ask before we actually contemplate on any desires. So devotee is always praying to the Lord that even in your service, my Lord, if I have any prayers, if it so pleases you, you please sanction, not for me. If it pleases you, it pleases me. If it pleases me and it doesn't please you, then don't sanction it. Because devotee is not sure. How can he be sure of any of his desires? The desires are all coming from so much of mind's interference is there. Three guna interference is there in our desire for Krishna also. So one of the important activities of the true Vaishnava is he is always cautious about his desires. He is always managing his desires. He is fearful of his desires sometimes. Desires can be good, desires can be bad. If I create a sinful desire, then it is going to get fulfilled and I am going to lose my devotion service. So it's not something, it's like a double-edged sword. You can cut this way or you can use it for surgery or whatever it is. So in our case, we should use our desiring capacity for surgery for a good cause to save the patient. Similarly, desire for Krishna, desire for devotion service, desire to please Guru and Krishna, and in the spirit of servant of the servant of the servant, then it becomes very safe for us. If you try to do anything independently, immediately the sword will cut us in some other way. Will entangle us in fruitive activities which will only bring us forgetfulness of Krishna. Fruitive activity means forgetfulness of Krishna. I am independent. So just see what the living entity we have forgotten. We all have fallen out of our mother's womb and we have forgotten what we prayed to the Lord because of the trauma or the shock of being pushed out of the womb, choked, memory is gone. Just like in our adult life or in our after coming out, if we have an accident, very traumatic accident, then even after you are cured, you cannot recognize your family members, you cannot recognize anybody. You are in a state of trauma. You are in your own world. So our Krishna consciousness or awareness of Krishna is something which is very natural constitutional awareness. Krishna consciousness means awakening our Krishna consciousness. Awakening. We don't create Krishna consciousness. And awakening by association. So hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, by hearing Lord Kapila's instructions, it has the power to awaken our consciousness that was there in the womb. After that, the devotee always never forgets Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. He is never an illusion. This world is, livable. Only for the service of Krishna, even for the service of Krishna, when we live by His mercy, things may not be that bad, but the nature of the material world is always there. Even pure devotees are tortured. That's the nature of the material world. Envious people will torture. Envious people will attack. So life is never smooth for a devotee of the Lord. When he is a sadhaka, his senses are attacking him. When he becomes a pure devotee, then Maya is personally, directly attacking him. So it's just like if somebody is completely absorbed in sense gratification, or then Maya will say, no, the senses will take care of him. I need not put my hand now. He is fully engaged and busy. His senses have kept him busy. And suppose we, by chanting Hare Krishna and all, get control over our senses and, you refuse sense gratification. Then Maya will immediately note, oh, now I have to personally take care of this person. Then very special kind of inducements will come. So again, why Krishna is putting this much trouble to us? Somebody may ask. Because the only way is, if you become Krishna conscious, then Maya's allurements will not attract us. So therefore Krishna is saying, you become Krishna conscious. Whether senses will attack you or Maya Devi herself attacks you, nothing will affect you. But they are all my agents, they are playing their role so that you be determined, you show your determination to serve me. And according to that, the living entity is given different tests at different time, and Krishna is personally involved with every devotee's life. That devotee has to recognize. When he recognizes, then he will learn. Lord himself in the heart will teach the devotee how to learn those lessons. It's not that our life, we are doing devotion service, the Lord is not involved in our life. Lord is involved in each one of our lives. He observes each one of our attitudes. All contaminated consciousness, contaminated thinking, all these kind of thinking the Lord observes. He observes these things and according to that He reciprocates. He teaches the devotee. No shortcut. To see that the Lord is not involved in my day-to-day life, in my devotion service, in what is happening to me, what is happening to my, so many different services that I have got, success, failure, projects, all these things. All Lord is directly involved in it. We have to get the message. What is it the Lord teaching us? He is not teaching us materially. He is not teaching us something material. Super soul is always teaching us some attitude, teaching us something spiritual. What is the spiritual message that I have to get out of everything? Is what the devotee is always alert. And then the journey will be completed, the transit journey in this body. The way the Guru has instructed, we should run our body and we can go back to Godhead. So today is Prabhupada's Sannyas day. We are reading some Sannyas Smriti. 20-25 minutes reading is there. Srila Prabhupada's Sannyasa Smriti. Interaction with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur during Srila Prabhupada's Grahastha days. Srila Nayanananda Dasa Babaji Maharaj recollects. The last year that our Gurudev Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur organized and performed Gauramandal Parikrama, thousands and thousands of pilgrims assembled at our Champahati Mandir. There was a whole village of tents in all directions. On the afternoon of the last day, one of our god brothers had just arrived in Navadvipa, having returned from London by boat. He had gone to preach but had returned without meeting with full success. In the evening, while Guru Maharaj was giving pravachana, he explained that it was his earnest desire that the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should be spread in the Western countries. He told how it was the vision of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakura that this would happen. And it was also the last request of his mother, Srimati Bhagavati Devi, to him before she left this world. Consequently, he had been willing to take the lifeblood of Gaudiya Math in funds to send devotees there to preach. But so far these attempts have been largely unsuccessful. At this moment in his talk, I noticed that something very mysterious was happening. Guru Maharaj was looking out at the large crowd of devotees, especially in the front where all the sannyasis and brahmacharis in red cloth were sitting. There he turned his head and looked over to his left side and where I was standing. He was looking intently at someone and became silent for a long moment. I happened to look behind me and I clearly saw that the person with whom he was making eye contact was Abhaya Charana Aravinda Prabhu. I thought that they were looking at each other in a special way. Then Guru Maharaj again addressed the audience in front of him and said, "But I have a prediction. However long in the future it may be, I predict that one of my disciples will cross the ocean and the devotee will bring back the whole world." I remembered this incident and Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada truly made it come to pass exactly in this way. Srila Prabhupada ki. Srila Prabhupada, humble Grahastha Vaishnava. Srila Nayananda Dasa Babaji Brahmaraj recollects, Abhay Prabhu behaved very humbly to everyone, even though he was senior in many ways to most of the people who came later during those 11 years. I would always pay dandavat to others, but just because they had taken initiation. He would always pay dandavat to others, just because they had taken initiation first. Though he had made that devoted connection with our Guru Deva first, he didn't formally take initiation until later on because of his family and his business. I clearly recall how very serious, simple, and humble he was. Sometimes when I was in Calcutta, I would go to visit him at Sitakanta Banerjee Lane, where he had his home and chemical business. Sat Prasangananda Brahmachari, who is 93 years old now, and Satisha Prabhu, who is 73, used to accompany me where I visited his house at Sitakanta Banerjee Lane. He was very affectionate to us. He always welcomed guests into his home. He opened his house to any Vaishnavas from Gaudiya Math, whether they were his god brothers or young brahmacharis who weren't god brothers and hadn't even been initiated. Next, Srila Prabhupada quits home to be a vanaprastha. Harishauri Dasa writes, "You know my story, tea or me?" Srila Prabhupada asked me. "No, Srila Prabhupada," I said, intrigued and eager to hear. He gave a chuckle. "My wife, she was fond of drinking tea, so one day I told her, either you give up your tea drinking or you give up your husband." "Oh, then I'll give up my husband." Of course, she thought I was joking. He went on, "But a few days later, I left the house without telling anyone. I borrowed 10 rupees from a friend and brought a train ticket, and I never returned." "Where did you go?" "Somewhere, anywhere," he laughed. He never saw his wife again. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur urges Srila Prabhupada to take sannyasa. Excerpt from Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. One night Abhay had a striking dream. And the same dream he had several times before during his days as a householder. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati appeared just as Abhay had known him, the tall scholarly sannyasi, coming directly from the spiritual world, from Krishna's personal entourage. He called to Abhay and indicated that he should follow. Repeatedly he called and motioned. He was asking Abhay to take sannyas. "Come," he urged, "become a sannyasi." Abhay awoke in a state of wonder. He thought of this instruction as another feature of the original instruction Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had given him at their first meeting in Calcutta. The same instruction that his spiritual master had later solidified in a letter: become an English preacher and spread Krishna consciousness throughout the Western world. Sannyas was for that end. Otherwise, why would his spiritual master have asked him to accept it? Abhay reasoned that his spiritual master was saying, "Now take sannyasa and you will actually be able to accomplish this mission. Formerly, the time was not right." Abhay deliberated cautiously. By accepting sannyasa, a Vaishnava dedicates his body, mind, and words totally to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, renouncing all other engagements. He was doing that already. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had offered sannyasa to his leading disciples so that they could continue his mission. They hadn't done it. Preaching in the West had proved perilous, even for the Gaudiya Math's most recognized sannyasis. How could he, a mere householder, presume he could succeed where the others had failed? He was hesitant. The helpless, incapable feeling he had expressed in his Virahashtaka there. But now his spiritual master was beckoning him over all other consideration, even over natural humility. Now, although he was elderly and alone, the desire to preach just as his spiritual master had preached remained with him, a fierce, though sometimes quietly expressed determination. The Vedic standard and the example set by the previous acharyas was that if one wanted to lead a preaching movement, sannyasa was required. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta had taken sannyasa to facilitate his missionary work. Lord Chaitanya had taken sannyasa to further the Sankirtana movement. Of course, Lord Chaitanya was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but when his young students had been disrespectful towards him, treating him as an ordinary man, he had taken sannyas. Because a sannyasi is automatically respected, Lord Chaitanya's acceptance of sannyasa was a calculated tactic. As soon as he began traveling throughout India as a sannyasi, he immediately attracted thousands of followers to the Sankirtana movement. Abhay turned to Keshav Maharaj in Mathura, and Keshav Maharaj told Abhay to take sannyas immediately. After corresponding with Tirtha Maharaj, Abhay had felt some uncertainty about accepting sannyasa. And now that he was being encouraged to so strongly, he resisted, but Keshav Maharaj was insistent. Srila Prabhupada, I was sitting alone in Vrindavan writing. My god brother insisted to me, Bhaktivedanta Prabhu, you must do it. Without accepting the renounced order of life, nobody can become a preacher. So he insisted, not he insisted. Practically, my spiritual master insisted. He wanted me to become a preacher, so he forced me through this God brother, you accept. So unwillingly, I accepted. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. On October 21st, 1968, on the occasion of the Disciples' Day of Srila Prabhupada's Sannyas Guru Bhakti Prajna Keshav Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada recalls in ISKCON Seattle. Srila Prabhupada, one has to accept the renounced order from another person who is in renounced order. So I never thought that I shall accept the renounced order of life. In my family life, when I was in the midst of my wife and children, sometimes I was dreaming my spiritual master that he is calling me and I was following him. When my dream was over, I was thinking, I was a little horrified. Oh, Guru Maharaj wants me to become sannyasi. How can I accept sannyas? At that time, I was feeling not very satisfaction that I had to give up my family and have to become a mendicant. That time, it was a horrible feeling. Sometimes I was thinking, no, I cannot take sannyas. But again, I saw the same dream. So in this way, I was fortunate. My Guru Maharaj, Prabhupada begins to cry, choked voice, pulled me out of this material life. I have not lost anything. He was so kind upon me. I have gained. I left 3 children. I got now 300 children. So I am not loser. This is the material conception. We think that we shall be loser by accepting Krishna. Nobody is loser. I say from my practical experience. I was thinking that how can I accept this renounced order of life? I cannot accept so much trouble. But I retired from my family life. I was sitting alone in Vrindavan writing books. So this, my god brother, he insisted me, Bhaktivedanta Prabhu. This title was given in my family life. It was offered to me by the Vaishnava society, so he insisted me. Not he insisted me, practically my spiritual master insisted me through him, that you accept. Because without accepting the renounced order of life, nobody can become a preacher. So he wanted me to become a preacher. So he forced me through the god brother, you accept. So unwillingly I accepted. And then I remembered that he wanted me to go to the Western country. So I am feeling now very much obliged to this god brother that he has carried out the wish of my spiritual master and enforced me to accept the sannyas order. Prabhupada accepts sannyas from Leelamrita. Keshav Gaudiya Math was located in the midst of one of Mathura's downtown bazaars. Its main entrance, an arched doorway, led into a courtyard open to the sky through a metal grating above. Abhay Babu entered the matha dressed in white, but he would soon be leaving dressed in saffron as Swami. Abhay had been living as a renunciant for 9 years. There was no need for him to observe a ceremony or to proclaim himself a sadhu by changing to saffron dress. But it was a parampara that a man take Tridhandi sannyasa at the end of his life. He was aware of the cheating sannyasis. Even in Vrindavan, he had seen so-called sadhus who did not preach, but simply spent their days hunting for chapatis. Some swamis of Vrindavan even indulged illicitly in what they supposedly came to reject, sex life. Such persons were making a mockery of sannyasa, and there were the caste Goswamis also, who lived like ordinary householders, running temples as a business to support their families, accepting honor and donation from public on the false basis of birth. Abhay knew of these abuses of sannyasa, but he also knew the real purpose of sannyasa. Sannyasa was for preaching. On the morning of September 17, 1959, in the 20 by 25 foot deity room in the second floor of Keshava Ji Maharaj, a group of devotees sat before the deities of Radha, Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. The deities were colorfully dressed in royal clothing and silver crowns. Abhay sat on a mat of kusha grass beside 90-year-old Sanatana, also to take sannyas that day. Sitting opposite the two candidates, Narayan Maharaj, Keshav Maharaj's disciple, prepared to conduct the ceremony of mantras and offering of grains and geese into the fire. Akinchana Krishnadasa Babaji, Abhai's god brother, known for sweet singing, played mridanga and sang Vaishnava bhajans. Sitting on a raised asana, His Holiness Keshav Maharaj presided. Narayan Maharaj chanted the required mantras and then sat back silently while Keshav Maharaj lectured. Then, to everyone's surprise, Keshav Maharaj asked Abhay to speak. Abhay had not expected this. As he looked around at the gathering of devotees, he understood that the common language was Hindi. Only Keshav Maharaj and a few others spoke English. Yet he knew he must speak in English. After Abhay's speech, each initiate received his sannyasa danda, the traditional head-high staff made of 4 bamboo rods bound together and completely enwrapped in saffron cloth. They were given their sannyas garments, 1 piece of saffron cloth for dhoti, a top piece, 2 strips for underwear. They also received tulsi neck beads and sannyasa mantra. Keshav Maharaj said that Abhay would now be known as Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj and that Sanatana would be Muni Maharaj. After the ceremony, the 2 new sannyasis posed for a photograph standing on either side of their sannyas guru who sat in a chair. Keshav Maharaj didn't impose any strictures on Abhay. He simply encouraged him to go on preaching. Yet Abhay knew that to become A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami did not mean merely that he was giving up family, home comforts and business that he had done 5 years ago. Changing from white cloth to saffron, from Abhay Bhabu to Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj had a special significance. It was a mandate he had required, the irrevocable commitment. Now it was only a matter of time before Bhaktivedanta Swami would travel to the west as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had ordained. This was Bhaktivedanta Swami's realization of his new sannyasa status. The Gaudiya Patrika's account of sannyas initiation included a biographical sketch of Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj listing the major events of his life. The article concluded, seeing this enthusiasm and ability to write articles in Hindi, English, Bengali, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj gave him the instruction to take Tridanda sannyasa. In the month of Bhadra, on the day on which Vishwarupa accepted sannyas, Bhaktivedanta Swami at Sri Keshav Gaudiya Math accepted sannyas from the founder of the Vedanta Samiti, Bhakti Prajna Keshav Maharaj. Seeing him accept his ashrama of renunciation, seeing this pastime for accepting the renounced order of life, we have attained great affection and enthusiasm. One of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, Rupa Vilas Das, recalls, we are spending a little time with Prabhupada's godbrother Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, with whom he had a very affectionate relationship. He was telling the story of Prabhupada's taking sannyas and said, the ceremony was going on with Keshav Maharaj overseeing and conducting the initiation. Narayan Maharaj was chanting the mantras and I was doing bhajans. But as my habit, I got a little too loud. So Keshav Maharaj was making a gesture with his hand, palm down as if to say, not so loud. Krishnadas Das Babaji Maharaj said, and as soon as he would turn his head, your Prabhupada would go like this, turning his palm up, indicating to chant louder. Then Krishnadas Maharaj laughed as he always did and said, it was then that I knew he would be the leader of the Hare Krishna movement. The Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada at Radha Damodar by Mahanidhi Swami. After Srila Prabhupada taking sannyas, Narayan Maharaj recalls, I would visit Srila Prabhupada many times while he was staying at Radha Damodar temple between 62 to 64. One time I went there and he was sitting on the floor on a torn quilt, and after sitting on my chadar, we were both discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. There was no bed in the Prabhupada's room, he was sleeping on the floor. On another occasion, Narayan Maharaj recalls, often we would have kirtan in his room at Radha Damodar. Prabhupada played mridanga, I played kartals. He used to tell how he was planning to go to America and other Western countries. He said, I want to preach as Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had ordered me, and I want to publish BTG in huge scale and preach in Western countries. If there will be need, I will establish boarding facilities for interested people. If they want, I will give meat also and eggs also and wine also. I believe that after hearing Harinam Sankirtan and Siksha of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then certainly they will reject all these things and surely they will become pure Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada teaches by example. In Nairobi, Srila Prabhupada demonstrated how a sannyasi should preach. For 1 month, he strictly followed Vedic tradition by staying only 3 days or less in the home of each of his Indian hosts. Then, although his hosts always provided him good food and comfortable accommodation, he'd move on to the next place. This was the rule for sannyasis. Prabhupada said, it kept them from becoming attached to bodily comforts and from inconveniencing their host. Srila Prabhupada ki. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki.